So welcome everyone. Today we are making my whipped shea butter. We're starting with shea butter and coconut oil. Now I do have the amounts written out in an actual recipe for you that will be linked in the description. You can grab that. It's in a short ebook form for you that gives all of the tips and tricks. So I'm just giving you an overview here in this video, but it will be fairly detailed. So I do generally make this in the winter time, but I thought why not add this to a summer video. Dry skin issues aren't limited to winter, so we'll make this an all-season whip. So I'm just adding in some jojoba oil. Jojoba oil is wonderful for the skin, and it's very low on the comedogenic scale. It sinks in really quickly and isn't too greasy, which is a nice contrast to the shea and coconut. Now I'm adding in some vitamin E because vitamin E, of course, is very healing for the skin, and when we have dry, damaged areas, vitamin E is always a good addition. I use that in my regular shea butter hydrating creams as well, and in many of my products. Finally, we're adding a little avocado oil, and you can, substitute different oils in this based on the properties and the things that you're looking for in your whipped butter. I like avocado oil. I feel like it's a nice light oil, and because I'm using such heavy butters and oils in the solid form, I like to have something a little lighter. And then finally I'm adding in some kosher vegetable glycerin. This just adds to the moisturizing property of this. So remember, the whipped butters are really designed to work on those areas that really need some extra care. Okay, so what I have done is just melted down the coconut oil and the shea butter, and then added in the jojoba oil and the avocado oil with the vitamin E and the glycerin. So what you want to do now is you want to get it to this opaque, thicker state, and putting it in the freezer can help you to achieve this for about 10 minutes. Right now I'd like it to get a little bit thicker, so it's going back in. Okay, so it is at the appropriate thickness now to at least get it started. So I want to whip it a little bit, and then from here you can see it's still fairly thin and it's still a little bit kind of yellowish in color. So what I'm looking for is a thicker butter and cream that will, or butter and oil that will turn really like a nice white. So I'm going to beat it with the mixer a little bit here and then put it back in the freezer for a 5-minute burst. This is really important in getting it to hold its shape. So this is what it looks like after I've taken it back out of the freezer, and it's getting nice and thick. So what we'll do now is just go through this and give it one other mix through with our mixer before we put it back in the freezer again. So it's you have to have patience with this. It can take a bit, but it's important to do all these steps. Okay, so you can see the color change here. It's getting to be a nice white. And again, what I'm doing is kind of just whipping it through as it gets harder and harder, and then putting it back in the freezer for, anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, just to harden it a little bit more. And again, the reason I'm doing this is because when I then put it into the jar, it will just hold its shape a lot better instead of kind of deflating, which we don't want. So it can be easy to make these if you just whip it up the first time and you package it. However, going through these steps is going to give us that nice pretty look when you pipe it inside of a jar that we're going for. Okay, so here we have the white look that I'm going for. We are nearly finished. So I'm giving this one final whip, and Now I'm going to put it in the freezer. I put it in the freezer one last time. I'm whipping it through. And again, I've probably done this, I don't know, 5 times, in and out of the freezer. So I'm finishing this up, and then we're going to put it in the jars. Okay, so I'm just using my spatula and getting all of it kind of pulled out and ready to put in a plastic bag. So you can just get a plastic bag and spoon it in. Sometimes it's easier if you take the bag and sit it, inside of like a jar and then pull the top over the edge. But um, I'm used to doing this and can get it in there fairly quickly. And there's not too much that we're working with. So I'm putting it inside of this bag. And then what we'll end up doing is just cutting a hole in the bottom of it. So I've put it in the bag and I cut a little hole on the bottom corner. And now we're going to go ahead and just pipe it in. So we can just squeeze the bag, and you can pipe it any way you want. I'm not going for anything fancy here at all today. I'm just more or less getting it in there. I'm not making this to sell or anything like that. I just want to kind of get it in there in kind of like a swirl pattern. I cut a pretty thick piece in the bottom of the bag. Now you want to make sure you're tamping out the bottom or the jar as you go too, because it is fairly thick and it needs to settle in the bottom. But if just tamping it down will do that pretty quickly. So I'm doing a jar for a customer. What I do in my Facebook group is every month I select a customer, just someone who's active in the group, who's been commenting and so forth. I kind of put all of those names in and just pick somebody at random, and then they get gifted something. So this time they're being gifted a whipped cream, butter and cream.